we all know we're talking about standing order 5H, and there's a move on that. Is there a second there? Thanks, Matt. Are there any members? Yeah. And right. So we have the resolution of the Cabinet with 2 amendments. I'm advised by my wonderful legal officer here that I'm going to give Councillor Davies 15 minutes to make. All this will be done in the one debate, by the way. Yes. Yes, I think that's pretty well agreed that there may be less time. They may not have got it quite right. So one debate only, the mayor is ruling that, and it's got the support of the party leaders, I understand. One debate only, but with separate votes, obviously, at the end of the debate. Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I am moving the recommendation from Cabinet, which has been forwarded to Council this evening around the revision to the Council's constitution. Mr. Mayor, the changes that we're discussing tonight have their origins in the recommendations from the Corporate Peer Challenge, which took place in Wirral last October and produced a fairly detailed report. One of the key recommendations from that report was that the Council should, and I quote, take the urgent steps that you have identified to strengthen governance. Make sure you complete a full review of governance and decision-making thoroughly, including the scheme of delegation, ensuring the arrangements are understood and adhered to. And in that same report, Mr. Mayor, the peer team noted that at that stage we were at the initial stages of undertaking a review of our overview and scrutiny arrangements, including how they were supported by the organisation, ensuring more independent and impartial support to members from a corporate policy unit. The team said, following their visit, that we were, quote, sensibly seeking expertise of the Centre for Public Scrutiny to review the function further so it plays a more effective role. And we had the director of that organisation at present one of our member development events at the floor of the pavilion. The Corporate Challenge team, as Mayor, also noted that we were starting to consider how the role of neighbourhood forums might develop further to strengthen local leadership. And then they went on to note that we were looking outside Wirral, good practice elsewhere in other local authorities, so we could learn from good practice and become a learning organisation. So all of these issues that were raised by the Peer Challenge team were then incorporated in the improvement plan agreed with the local government association, part of the work that the improvement board carried out. In addition to that, we had a smaller group of elected members, the Democracy Working Group, chaired by my deputy leader, Councillor McLachlan, looking at many of these governance issues. And then we've also had 5 member events, which in general terms have been well attended by elected members. And then finally we had quite a detailed questionnaire, which was sent out to all elected members, and we had quite a good response to that around all of these issues. So I think we've had a fairly exhaustive appraisal, if you like, of all of these matters in response to the recommendations of the Corporate Challenge team. I want to say, in terms of introducing these changes at the outset, that I want to be very clear that the administration intend to continue to operate the cabinet and leader model. Now, I know this has generated some discussion, and I acknowledge that there is a difference of opinion between ourselves and the other groups on this council. But certainly, for my part, I have not seen convincing evidence that really changing back to the old committee system will address all of the issues that the corporate peer team raised following their visit in October. So the changes I'm proposing tonight are predicated on the council continuing to operate the peer cabinet and leader system with the improvements. I do believe there are improvements we're proposing this evening, and we believe this is the best model to take Wirral forward. I think to some extent it's you can get hung up really on structures, because in my view, and I would say this about any model actually, my sort of observation, having now looked at a number of authorities, that any model works best if all members, I mean all members and officers, have a positive mindset and engage constructively. And that is a key, I think, challenge really for us as part of changing the culture of the organisation. So, what are the aims of the changes that we're proposing? Well, we want to clearly improve our governance and decision-making procedures. We want to ensure that there is clarity about the distinctive role of officers and members. We want to enhance the role of non-executive members in influencing policy through changing the scrutiny process. We want to establish a new model of neighbourhood working, which enhances the role of members as community champions and achieves greater engagement from local residents. And finally, we want to introduce a new procedure for council, which is designed to focus on issues which the council are responsible for and better holds the executive to account. Now, these changes, I believe, will recognise the outcome of the democratic process by giving appropriate authority to the ruling group on the council to carry out its policy, but at the same time ensuring that there is a transparent process for holding the administration to account and giving the opposition appropriate opportunity to question the administration and propose alternative policies and programmes. So, if I can just talk a little bit about the actual changes very briefly. First of all, on scrutiny. Now, the proposal here is to replace the existing 6 scrutiny committees with 3 new policy reforms committees, which broadly align with the 3 strategic directorates we've just put in place under the Chief Executive's leadership. There will also be one coordinating committee to oversee the new arrangements and deal with cross-cutting matters. Now, the key point to emphasise is that the new committees will be much more involved in influencing council policy before it's been considered by the executive. In other words, I think we want to move away from the current model where I think too often scrutiny committees are reactive to decisions made by the executive to actually influencing policy far more kind of upstream of the process. But for this to be effective, it will require joint working between the Cabinet and the new committees, particularly around the forward plan and what the priorities of the Council are going forward. And I'm certainly happy as leader to give an assurance that we will seek to develop a new relationship with the policy reforms committees, and where possible, Cabinet will take on board the views of these new committees before decisions are made. Second main change relates to the neighbourhood working and the introduction of 4 committees based around Wirral's parliamentary constituencies. This is kind of predicated on the argument, and I accept there's disagreements, but I'll put the case that the existing network of 11 area forums have not been effective. A report to Cabinet on the 11th of February stated that the forums were costly to administer. A sum was quoted at £1,300 per annum per resident who attends per area forum. The report also went on to say that the area forum footprints were also seen as being too small to coordinate services effectively. So the new arrangements, as well as saving some £391,000, would aim to have more strategic bodies in place which will be able to focus on priorities from neighbourhood plans, with an emphasis on tackling poverty and deprivation and narrowing the gap. And with each committee initially being allocated £50,000 of council funding to deliver their priorities, but, and this is important, with the expectation that this sum of money will be matched by additional funding from other public agencies. I think that's really important. In addition, we're going to have neighbourhood officers actually based in each of the constituencies whose responsibility will be to engage with ward members and local residents at the local level in each area, and that's certainly going to be, I think, a big improvement from the previous model. Third set of changes, Mr. Mayor, relate to full council and the procedure for full council. It's my belief that members spend a lot of time trying to score political points against each other and often dwell on issues for which we as a council are not directly responsible. The intention in the change is to move to a procedure which focuses on services that we actually deliver as a council. And hence the emphasis on written reports by the leader, cabinet members, and each of the chairs of the new policy and performance committees, all of whom can be questioned by any member of the council. There will still be a place in the agenda for notice of motions, but these will normally be referred to cabinet or the relevant committee unless council agrees that the issue is sufficiently important to be debated by full council. It's also our intention, Mr. Mayor, to amend the scheme of delegation with a view to introducing greater clarity and consistency around the roles of members and officers. So, in terms of next steps, if full council agrees to these changes this evening, the new arrangements are intended to apply from the start of the new municipal year. We will clearly need to monitor the impact of these changes. And this will be done by the Standards and Constitutional Oversight Committee, and I'm also proposing that the Leaders Board have this as almost a standing item on their agenda, because I recognise we need to make sure that it's delivering the aims I've outlined. So, I'd like to sort of finish my remarks by thanking all members who've engaged in what's been a very lengthy process. I recognise that a lot of demands have been made on members to attend seminars, to fill in questionnaires, and I'd particularly like to thank the members of the Democracy Working Party because they have looked at a lot of these issues in great depth. So, just in conclusion, in moving these changes, as I said at the outset, our aim is to improve governance and decision making, to ensure that we're more open and transparent in how we operate. I really want us to focus as a council on taking the organisation forward around our key priorities of tackling inequalities, delivering growth in our economy, attracting jobs and new investment, and protecting vulnerable people. But I also want us to develop a new culture where we move away from a position where everything is politicised to concentrating on practical improvements that will improve the quality of life of the residents that we represent. Mr. Mayor, I would argue that these changes are not particularly radical. Indeed, to quote a member of the Improvement Board who attended the last Members' Development evening on April the 4th, they are not particularly transformational, he said. They are what normal councils do. So, I hope sincerely that all elected members will engage with these new models of governance and resist the temptation to oppose everything without at least giving these changes a chance to work. I so move. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, well, the First Amendment, Councillor Green.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And whilst clearly the Labour Party are happy already, because some of them seem to believe that they know what's going to happen in the debate. Maybe that's the whole point. Let me just be clear on some of the items. Sorry. So, well, you know, from now over a little bit. One of the issues for me, we talk about the corporate peer challenge. I didn't see anywhere in the corporate peer challenge that said we should remove the opportunity for councillors to debate at the council chamber on behalf of their residents. Nowhere in the corporate peer challenge did it say that. And I'm not sure that there was anything that the LGA Improvement Board said that should happen too. And if it did, that would really be the final straw with the is, in turn, let's be clear, one of the elements of these changes is to remove the children and young people and the adult social health and well-being scrutiny committees. Given Wirral's history, Mr. Mayor, given the abuse that we know was suffered by some of the most vulnerable people in our society, in our community, given what we know about the constant threat, the ever-present threat to children and young people about child protection and so on, it seems to me a backward and dangerous step to actually remove any of the scrutiny. And let's get it clear when officers say, well, I asked them about the Martin Norton test. Well, these are